Hey, it's Fat Albert.
That's wild. That's
like
how
that.
you started. Welcome back to Musicals.
Welcome back to Boozicles, friends, the podcast where Campbell and I pick a musical, talk about it, and we get drunk while we do so, and then at the end, we're going to play a fun little ditty for each other.
And not for you because of copyright
Laws. But sometimes
Yeah.
we will. And you just got to stick it out for those few precious moments.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, it's first day of Pride, chilling in my, pansexual era.
You didn't text me Happy Pride, which is kind of weird. Or do your traditional Venmo me $20, which is kind of like, I don't know, whatever.
You also didn't text me Happy Pride. Suspicious.
I was waiting.
Well, Happy Pride, Campbell.
Happy Pride, Raven.
And Happy Pride, listeners.
We were recording this June 1st. We'll
Gay.
have episodes that, right? So embarrassing.
So, for our consistently always the same, never changing segment, now that's what I call terminology.
That's fun.
Right? Our musical term of the day is bolero, which is a genre of song originating from Eastern Cuba in the late 1800s, characterized by sophisticated lyrics of romance. So this is popular to hear in like Cuba, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Spain, and Vietnam, which I thought was interesting. Didn't realize there was a connection there. Yeah. And it has a couple of fusion genres, including bolero son, which is a mixture with son cubano, also originating from Eastern Cuba around the same time. Bolero cha, which is cross with cha-cha-cha music, also genre of Cuban music. And then bolero mambo, which is a cross with mambo as a genre of Cuban music. So slightly prominent in the music and plot in certain places of the musical we're going to be talking about today, which is In the Heights, the 2021 film version, original or based off of the stage play of the same name by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, and this movie kind of takes place, sort of, well, the stage version especially, over basically 3 days in a largely Dominican American neighborhood, but like a lot of different mixture of people and cultures of Washington Heights and Upper Manhattan in New York City.
New York City.
Yeah, and what are we drinking with that then?
Today we are drinking / eating a piragua, which is a popular like Puerto Rican sort of sweet. It's like a shaved ice dessert made typically with fruit syrups, although there are a variety of ways that you can prepare it. So this can be prepared with any fruit of your choice. I have chosen to use oranges, and you make your syrup and then mix it with some rum, pour it over some ice, and enjoy.
Yeah, and I decided to go mango lime for mine. And listeners, if you're trying to make this like at home and you don't have like an ice shaving machine, a setup kind of thing, you can also use a blender, but be very careful because if there are liquids in the blender, you don't want to like smoke it out. But if you have your blender, like the jug part, the glass or plastic or whatever, if you have that really cold, it really helps to get it like really powdery ice.
Nice. Using some chemistry, some thermodynamics in there. We love it. We love it. Okay,
Cheers.
You want to try it?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is exactly what I want. Always, all the time.
This is so good. I was tasting my syrup while I was making it, and it's just pure concentrated orange flavor, and I love it. It's so delicious.
Yeah. I was telling our listeners, I went mango lime, and so I also got like a bottle for it.
Nice.
And I'm going to put this in a lot of different drinks.
Absolutely.
Even just like water. Like cold water, ice, maybe some lemon juice.
Yeah. This would go great in like some soda water too.
Yeah, or some cooled, like, tea. I was going to make a picture of some, like, Earl Grey tea. So, like, a mango black tea on
Hell
ice.
yeah.
That
But yeah, you could
delicious.
definitely save the syrup and use it in cocktails. I was also considering there's a version of Piragua that is made with like cream. You can use like milk cream, coconut cream, and stuff. And so I was like, ooh, like a RumChata one could be interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can prepare this. So just add whatever alcohol of choice. I think silver rum works the best for fruit ones, but obviously, again, with crema, you can use RumChata and just make it to your liking.
That's delicious.
Yeah. And there are a lot of different ratios of alcohol that work too. I tried 2-to-1 with syrup, 3-to-1, 4-to-1. 1-to-1 is the only one that was a little too strong, but you can definitely customize it.
And yeah, and there's like, we'll have a couple different methods depending on like what kind of flavor you want to do. For example, if you're using like a whole fruit or frozen fruit, it's just kind of like equal parts of that, sugar, water. Get it to a low boil, simmer for like 10-15 minutes, let it cool, and then blend that. I use like an immersion blender to make like it's like a really good consistency syrup.
Nice.
But if you're using like a juice, like lime juice or
orange juice, yeah, either one.
Yeah.
So then you would kind of just mix that with sugar. You don't need to add more water because fruit juice already has water in it. Boil that down to like a thick syrup, and I put my peels in as well because it just like strengthens the flavor, and then stored it with the peels in it as well to keep that flavor locked in. And yeah, same thing. You get it down to like a thick consistency, thick like syrup consistency, and then just pour it over your ice once it's cooled, and it is perfectly refreshing, especially like in the setting of the musical, like a hot New York summer day. This is absolutely something I'd want to grab.
Yeah, for sure. With or without alcohol.
Okay. Shall we get into it?
Yeah.
So, in the Heights, we open on some of our production studio logos. They do like a cool like graffiti wall mural like redesign of the WB, the Warner Brothers logo, which I just think looks really cool.
The Warner Brothers does that for like a lot of their movies, if not most.
Yeah, I think it really brings you into like the scene and the environment of the musical. So we open on a beach, and we hear a character who turns out to be our main character, Usnavi, telling us that, talking to these little kids, but also telling us, the audience, that Sueñito means little dream, and kind of introducing us to the setting that our story is going to be taking place in today, which is Washington Heights of New York City. Yeah,
and Usnavi is played by Anthony Ramos, who is incredible.
So good.
I was completely in love with him while watching this. He's been in other things that we've done before. He was in Hamilton, also Lin-Manuel Miranda. He played John Lawrence, and Philip Hamilton originated those roles. He was in A Star is Born, She's Gotta Have It. But fun fact, his first major role in a musical, it was this like 14-minute musical known as 21 Chump Street.
That's hilarious.
Which was also written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, he was the lead in that musical. So,
okay,
very very good actor, singer.
So
he
talented.
Also has his own music. Yeah, he does. He does fantastic in this.
Yeah, I think he's really good in this whole movie.
Oh, and also like the kids he's talking to. They're played by Olivia Perez, Nalia Gomez, Dean Scott Vasquez, and Mason Vasquez.
So as we kind of we transition into like Washington Heights in New York. There's a cool like Latin hip hop beat that starts like during this time and like takes us through the city. And I do think a lot of the like general backing track, just of the like incidental music throughout the movie is very good and kind of just keeps like the energy and that like sort of just the general Latin music vibe going. And I really like that. And we get into the song In the Heights, which I like this number for what it does. It's functional. It's definitely a little cheesy.
There's a lot of functional music in this.
Yes. Yes.
Which I think sometimes
there's a lot of functional rapping.
I'm like, just talk.
Yes.
Like, just talk. This isn't light my candle, Rent. Although, I mean, there's a lot of, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, with Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jonathan Larson. But, like, I understand who the composer is.
Yes.
I understand. Yes. And what he does well.
Sometimes.
It doesn't have to be all the time.
All the time. You're capable of writing other music genres, Lin-Manuel. We've seen Moana. We've seen Encanto.
Did you see the preview for Moana 2?
No. Oh, excited.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was just so starting it off like this, I was like, because I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Or
Same.
really heard the music except for like one song.
Same.
And it was just kind of clips. I just was wondering, how is this going to go?
Yeah, I do think this song serves as a good introduction to the musical in that, like, it establishes, hey, it's going to be a lot of musical rapping in this musical, and some of it's going to be good, some of it's not going to be good. And it establishes, like, that the entire community is kind of part of this dynamic, like,
yeah,
getting the introduction to the city flow. Like, I think it gives you a good understanding of the community and the vibes, and I do think it's a good general introduction to the cast and the ensemble. It's just a little cheesy at times, and that's okay. A lot of opening ensemble numbers that's fine. I do really think that, and this goes for the whole film, I do think they integrate the set very, very well into all of their musical numbers.
Yeah.
And it keeps the energy very dynamic, even when sometimes, like, the staging or the choreographing or whatever, like, might be relatively simple. It still makes the number feel dynamic, especially visually. I really like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. And we see Usnavi kind of waking up, going to his apartment. We're introduced to some other characters. We meet Abuela Claudia, who is the best character in this. Actually tied with 3 other people, I think, as the best characters in this. Played by Olga Merediz, and she's been in like a million things. But she's also the Abuela in Encanto, which is fun, and we'll definitely be doing that on the podcast.
Absolutely.
That movie is just incredible. Talk about just fucking me up emotionally. She was also in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Orange is the New Black. On the PBS Nature Show, she narrated, which, I mean, her voice, both speaking and singing, it's just like
amazing.
A very specific itch in my brain.
Yeah. It's so warm.
She's so
and,
incredible
like,
in this.
Comforting, but also powerful in a way.
She made me cry so much in this movie. Spoiler.
Yes. Oh my gosh, her song. Let's not get into it right now. So then we see a hot girl shows up. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and he's just like heading to work.
Yes. And his work is a bodega that he has, like a little corner shop. So he's there kind of getting started for the day. Eventually, so we see like a lot of people coming and going, buying like lottery tickets, all types of stuff, kind of the hustle and bustle of the community. Eventually, a hot girl shows up who turns out to be our love interest for Usnavi, Vanessa. And I love
played
how...
by Melissa Barrera.
She's so good.
Is so cool.
She's basically like the cool hot girl in this movie, and it works so well because she's cool and hot. So, like, of course.
I almost choked, but that's true. She's also been in La Mujer de Judas, La Otra Cara del Alma. She was in that new movie Abigail that I was telling you about that I really want to see. That has the start Matilda in it. Keep Breathing. She's also in Scream 6, and Feet Up. But I liked everyone in this.
Agreed. Yeah.
There was no one, because like sometimes there are even like actors like whose characters I'm just like, I don't know about this, or I can like do without. But I was just like kind of just rooting for everyone.
Yeah, I was a really big fan
except
of the entire...
for Mr. Softy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. I was a really big fan of like the entire cast here. I really like that as soon as Vanessa shows up, the sort of like musical vibe changes. Like she's on like a whole different, like literally walking to the beat of her own drum type of thing. Like she's in rhythm with the song, but in a whole different style, vocal styling, like everything. I really like it. And we get after she leaves the bodega, we get, so she says, like, Usnavi, you owe me a bottle of champagne, because she's, trying to move into this new apartment, and hopefully the day is coming when she's going to get it. We get as she's leaving, a super cool shot of Usnavi singing out, like, looking out the window to the shop, and singing, rapping, as all the people in the street are dancing to the music, and you can see them in the reflection of the window. And there's just so many, like, this is the first of many, many really cool shots throughout this film. Just the cinematography is so good. I think this is
especially
one of
the pool.
Especially, oh my god, we're going to talk about it. This is one of the few movie musicals in a while, besides, like, since, like, maybe, like, Tick, Tick, Boom, or so, that, like, doesn't seem ashamed of being a musical. Like, it fully just leans into it.
Don't half-ass it. Just be
don't
a musical.
Don't half-ass it. Just be a musical. And this movie goes all in. And for, like, the flaws that it has, I love that about it. And I love that it's just like, hell yeah, we're gonna do the damn thing. And it does it.
Yeah, and I just really liked, especially in the scene, and, like, even when Usnavi is, like, heading to the bodega, and just seeing, like, the background actors and dancers, and it just, I think it does a really good job of capturing, like, both a city and a community through like, music and dance.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's, like, just, like, really fun, like, characters that show up. Like, Lin-Manuel Miranda is
the Piragua guy.
Yeah, and, like, selling, like, we see him, like, on his way to work when Usnavi's, like, on his way to work and things like that. But I also do think this musical does a really good job of, like, setting up, that does a really good job at world building in a world that we already know exists. Especially when they're looking at different shops that are closed, or we know that, like, rent prices are going up, and just, like, overall, like, gentrification and things like that is just very well established. Not, like, in your face about it, but, like, in this opening musical sequence. Not necessarily a number, because there's a lot of things going on, but
no, I totally agree. And I think this musical number also establishes the sort of pattern that this movie has of interspersing plot points and dialogue during musical numbers, which I think is actually a really good strategy to not make it feel like the story is grinding to a halt when you get to a musical number. And I think they, for the most part, they integrate them pretty well. There are a few little hiccups, but for the most part, I think they integrate them well.
We're also introduced to Usnavi's cousin.
Yes,
Sonny. Who is also working there. Younger guy, Gregory Diaz the Fourth, whose, fun fact, Broadway debut was Matilda.
That's cool.
He was also Pedro in the off-Broadway production of Pedro Pan, which I was, like, been reading a lot about, like, coincidentally. And that's, like, a stage musical based off of Operation Pedro Pan. So, like, during the Fidel Castro regime, transported children were, like, fleeing Cuba to the United States, where some were reunited with family or relatives, while others were cared by the Catholic Welfare Bureau. The books by Rebecca Perisio and the music's by Stephen Anthony Elkins. But it looks very interesting, and I, like, started, like, reading more about it. But he was in that as well, in the kind of, like, the starring role.
That's really cool. Yeah, I really liked his character in this. I think he did a good job. And so we see Alejandro, a family friend who seems to be a lawyer, comes over to see Usnavi, and he brings various photos of Usnavi's father's old, like, cabana, restaurant, like, beverage shop thing, that he had back home in the Dominican Republic. And basically he's telling him, like, hey, your father, like, left this to you. It's gonna, like, it's a fixer-upper, it's gonna need some work, but if you want it, like, it's basically, you can have it and, like, move back there and stuff like that, which Usnavi has established that he's always wanted to go back to the Dominican Republic, but never kind of got around to it.
Yeah, especially because Alejandro, played by Mateo Gomez, does say, especially after, like, a lot of it was destroyed by, like, a hurricane, so it's cheap, so it's, like, reasonable to do now. It will be a lot of work, but if this is an opportunity you still want to pursue, it's like more likely to happen now.
Yeah. So then Usnavi, as he's speaking to his kids kind of in real time, he introduces us to Nina Rosario, who is the daughter of Kevin Rosario, who's actually one of the people that we saw come into Usnavi's bodega. Mm-hmm. And she is the town genius, basically, the one who made it out. She went to Stanford for college and is now back for the summer after her freshman year away at college.
And so Nina's played by Leslie Grace, also been in the summers. Miss Bala, it's just also very accomplished like recording artist. Her mainstream debut came with "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow," and it was a bilingual cover of the 1961 Shirelles hit. And so her rendition of it was at #1 on both the Billboard Tropical Songs chart and the Billboard Latin Airplay charts, making her at the time the youngest female artist to do that.
That's awesome. I love that for her.
And then also, Kevin Rosario is played by Jimmy Smits, also been in NYPD Blue. He's been in a lot of the Star Wars as Bail Organa, Sons of Anarchy, The West Wing, The Get Down. This is like a stacked cast.
This is such a stacked cast, and one of the things that I noted later on in the movie, but might as well remark upon now, I love movies like this that focus on a particular demographic, especially of people that don't often get a lot of representation in media and in Hollywood, because it's really cool to get to see all of these actors working together. Like, almost every single actor in this movie I have seen in another project, but usually in one where they were either the only or one of a very small number of Hispanic people and characters. And so getting to see all of them together and working on this project together, there's just, to me, it feels like there's such a sense of like community and just like love that they all have for each other. And I feel like there's so much like, I don't know, just like the energy, like the atmosphere of the cast and of the film itself just feels almost electric with the excitement and just like warmth of the cast and like just all of them together.
So many of these scenes, like I was just taking notes that, oh wow, it just seems like they're just having a blast.
They're just having so much fun, and I love
doing such difficult things.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Some of the choreography is like, okay, like go off, sis. So Sonny also comes to say hi to Nina, and he mentions a march to her that's coming up in protest of the, at this time, like, repeal of DACA, which was being discussed politically. And so this is kind of, not the start, we've had a little bit of hints up until this point, but this is kind of the start of the sort of overt, like, slightly political and, like, social justice messaging throughout this film, which I think for the most part is integrated fairly well and naturally, and I think it makes a lot of sense for these things to be the concerns of especially the younger characters in this movie. And so, like, that's going to be kind of a major plot point for Sonny and Nina's story coming up. And then
we also see, like, more people kind of come through the bodega. We see Daniela, Carla, and Kuka, who are... Yes. I think
so fun.
Like, could they be considered the muses of this film?
I think
they
absolutely.
Interact
They're always
directly
together.
A lot with like the cast, but I do think they do serve as like inspiration for like most of the characters, directly and indirectly. So these three, perfect trio.
Love it.
No
oh my
notes.
Gosh, fantastic.
So Daniela, who runs the salon, and Carla and Kuka, like, who also like work with her. Danielle is played by Daphne Rubin Vega, who's also been in Wild Things, Hazbin Hotel, Tick Tick Boom. She was a one of the Sunday legends, rightfully so. Smash. She was also the executive producer for The Horror of Dolores Roach. And then we have Carla, played by Stephanie Beatriz, who is
so good.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Rosa Diaz, but also Mirabelle and Encanto, also in Hazbin Hotel, about a million things.
Yes.
And then we have Kuka, who is played by Tasha Polanco, who was Daya in Orange is the New Black was the first thing I saw her in. And I mean, when you have an actor that's just so good what they're doing and the character they're portraying, it has having such a tragic character arc and story that it makes you upset when you see them. This is how I feel about her. I was very happy to see her being just fun and amazing.
Yes, I was happy to see her in a project like this where she doesn't have to be depressed the whole time.
Yeah,
because she's amazing in Orange is the New Black, but she's so fun in this movie. I love it so much.
Also, an American Crime Story, A Little Prayer, The Gordito Chronicles, Russian Doll. But like this trio and Abuela,
perfection.
Big fan.
And so Nita is kind of, making her rounds, stopping by everyone. She talks to Abuela and tells her how Claudia.
I think we're also introduced to Benny as well.
We are. Oh, yes. We actually missed a song because after he introduces Nino Rosario, Vanessa sees her and tells her Benny's doing his dispatch today, and she stops by.
Yeah, but Benny's was also in the Heights sequence.
He was, yeah.
You just wanted to keep going, and I was like, no, there's too much to talk about.
There's so much.
The reason why our episodes are for 6 hours long. But Benny also comes to the bodega. You can tell he's like very close with Usnavi. He is played by Corey Hawkins, who's been in Survive, Black Klansman, 24 Legacy, the newest, The Color Purple. Mm-hmm. He is so much fun, especially when he's working as like the dispatcher for Kevin's company.
Yeah. Speaking of, we see him at Kevin's company, Rosario's car service, and he's doing his morning dispatch report, presumably to the drivers to tell them about traffic. And we get into the song Benny's Dispatch. This song is good. I really like the beat and the bars in this song. Actually really good. In the Heights, I felt was pretty cheesy on the rap side, but this one was actually like, I felt like the bars, like the flow worked a lot better with the backing beat and like track, and it felt like they just melded better together.
I thought it was also because it is a more well structured song.
Agreed.
Composition wise, that does not take away from like the creativity and the flow.
Yeah, I agree. Nina comes to see him at the office, and they're very cute together. There's obviously a little bit of chemistry here. I will say, so he has her chime in like on the dispatch radio because she's the boss's daughter, so everyone's like, hey, welcome back from college and stuff like that. This is a fun dispatch. I don't know how super helpful it is for all the drivers, but it's a fun one, and they get to see that Nina's back, so that's nice.
Yeah, they're like, honk if you miss her, and everyone's honking, and
everyone's honking in the window. Yeah. So Nina then goes to talk to Abuela, and tells her how she struggled in college, feeling really lonely, feeling really like isolated from her community, which definitely makes a lot of sense. And Abuela gives her, basically a pep talk of like, listen, a lot of our people have experienced this, like me when I came here with my mom, like immigrating here for the first time, like we were very isolated and like cut off from like our community and our network, but we basically found like little ways to keep and like show our dignity and basically keep our head up and find that connection and kind of dig down, and find that connection to our roots again, and use that to keep us going.
We
which
also
I think
find
is
out
really cool.
Here that Abuela never had kids of her own, but she's like the matriarch of this community. Everyone here is her child, grandchild. But I think another thing I really like about this musical is especially Nina's struggle with like imposter syndrome, and the kind of like hypocrisy of a lot of colleges and universities where there are so many awesome people and resources that are trying to give opportunities for people in like more marginalized communities to come to college, but when they get there, they have no
don't
support
protect
resources.
them at all. Yeah.
They don't protect them at all. And as we see this a lot in like engineering education research, and like when you're looking at student identity and especially retention in the first year and seeing yourself like your identity as a person in STEM, as an engineer, that like doing like bare minimum like interventions or having like a survey where you can read through, you know, experiences of college students that you could identify with and like what they went through increases like retention rates significantly.
Yeah.
And so listeners, if you're like in college or different spaces and you're like don't have like those resources or access or to like those types of communities, a lot of the times there's so many wonderful like cultural centers or different like clubs and organizations that aren't well advertised, sometimes I think intentionally by universities.
Yeah, probably.
But it's like unfortunate, you may have to do some digging on your own like for those like kinds of spaces, you know, which people do when they have no time for anything. Because college is hard. But I know, I just like really appreciated that like inclusion of like her story with this, and it's something I like as someone who works in academia. You see it all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's really telling of how those issues and sentiments can still persist even after generations. But also, like, I think one of the things that this movie shows well through, especially the conflict between Nina and her father, is how different generations experience those types of racism. Because the type of racism that, like, Abuela and her mom experienced coming over to America, the type of racism that her dad, Kevin, would have experienced when he came, is not... It's not the exact same type of experience that Nina is experiencing. It's born of the same sentiments and of the same ideologies, but I think it's one of the things that can sometimes cause a disconnect between generations when older generations are saying, like, oh, well, this is what I went through, and surely what you're going through now that the world has progressed is not nearly as bad. And it's not that it's not as bad, it's just different. You know?
Just different problems arise. Yeah.
So Abuela tells Nina, you know, like, go have a talk with your dad, and then hopefully, like, basically you'll feel better. And so as she's walking down the street, we get into the song Breathe, and I really, really like this song. This is a fairly simple song, simple rhythm, or simple, like, melody, but the backing rhythm is so just nice and gentle and kind of like lilting and like carrying her along as she's walking down the street. And we're getting this whole sense of like the community's connection to her, and how much they all like know her and miss her and want the best for her, and how they all kind of view her as like, you know, the person who made it out, the person that they're all rooting for to be the one to succeed, which is definitely a pressure I understand, and can be really, really overwhelming. And I think it's interesting to see how it almost counterintuitively causes her to feel an isolation and a sort of distance from her community now that she feels like she's not living up to their expectations.
Which is interesting because, I mean, similar in the stage version, but instead of those, like, the influences that causes her to, like, want to drop out, in the stage version, she loses her scholarships after her grades dropped from working other jobs to help support her family.
Oh, so I think, interesting.
Yeah, which is an interesting difference. And also interesting because, like, her mother, like, was a character in the stage version.
Okay.
But they wanted to focus more on Abuela and Daniela as, like, the matriarchs of, like, this community. So that's interesting. It's interesting when you go from a stage version to like a movie, what kind of things like get added or changed. Like Kuka, was new to this movie. Was not a character.
Oh, interesting. I'm so glad she's there. Yeah. And I did have moments where I kind of wondered, like, oh, where is her mom? What's her relationship with her mom? And they kind of just never addressed it, and so I kind of just assumed that, like, in the context of the narrative, that maybe the mom had passed at some point in the past long enough that they were kind of moved on functionally in their lives from that, and it wasn't like a frequent topic of conversation, but it did seem odd that her mom was just like not a part of the story and not mentioned at all anywhere. Yeah. So I do like, also during the song, I do really like, there's a little sort of vignette, I guess you could call it, or like this like side little dance break of her as like a young girl dancing down the street with the neighbors, and again just showing like how integrated this community all is with each other, and how much they all care for each other and lean on each other. So then we cut to Nina is having lunch with her dad, and she does like open up to him and tell him how she's feeling, of like, hey, listen, I went through some real racist shit, literally starting like first day one, and I just don't want to have to go back there and have to be like, she talks about like being confused for the help, which literally something I've experienced, and basically just feeling like she kind of had to choose between being successful, standing up for her for like her people, her culture, but also just having to like navigate the world like on her own. And she tells him that the deadline on tuition has already passed, and that she's not going to be going back for a second year because they haven't paid. So Kevin kind of freaks out and gets upset. They have like a little bit of a fight where he's like, listen, you can't tell me what we can afford. We're going to make this work, basically. So then Kevin, we see he calls Stanford and finds out that they actually are still accepting payments. And apparently, during the scene, there's a little Easter egg where there's a version of You'll Be Back from Hamilton playing in the background during the scene, which I thought was interesting.
And it's when talking about tuition and financial aid, that's horrible.
But I think it's interesting because, like, it's like literally Stanford is King George III singing menacingly that you'll be back and pay us out the nose for education. So then Usnavi introduces Daniela in her salon, which is now we see moving locations due to cost of like the particular area that they're in and gentrification. And we get into the song No Me Diga. Which...
Straight up Valentina, the drag queen, is in there. And I was just like, Valentina, what are you doing here?
That's crazy. I didn't notice that.
And from RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9, All Stars 4, was the co-host of Drag Race Mexico Season 1, but she was also Angel in Rent Live on NBC.
Ooh, that's fun.
I thought, because in No Me Diga, it's very much, okay, what's the gossip going on here? And it's very fun.
No Me Diga, I don't believe it.
To play a fun game, Raven, where we each message each other in the Zoom chat something no one else knows, and we won't tell them.
Oh, we want to tell listeners?
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll tell listeners?
About, like, ourselves or just in general?
Yeah, about ourselves. It wouldn't be interesting otherwise.
Something about me that you don't know.
Or, see, here's the thing. Anything, like, other people don't know as well.
Anything you don't know about me is incredibly embarrassing. I don't want anyone to know.
Yeah, that's the point.
Oh my goodness.
Can we go first?
Sure, because I would need some time to think. Ooh, honestly, mood.
Right?
Same.
Well, which one?
Ooh, okay.
Obviously the latter, but yes. I was a joke.
Yes. Also, I guess, congrats.
We'll find out.
Okay.
Wow, did not know that.
Yeah. Be embarrassing, but 'tis okay.
This was really
fun. Interesting. Okay. So, No Me Diga, they're all, sharing gossip. Daniela tells Vanessa that Usnavi apparently slept with some girl named Yolanda. Don't know anything about that, but Vanessa calls her a skank. Wild. I love the
And it turns out I just made it up.
Yeah. I love the moving wig heads. Again, like the way the set is incorporated in like the environment and stuff is incorporated in all of these musical numbers is so good. But the wig heads are basically like moving around and like kind of engaging like in the gossip and like having reactions whenever someone says something.
It's a spectator sport.
Yes.
For everyone involved.
Yes, it's fantastic. And towards the end of the song, Nina tells them that she dropped out of Stanford. And that kind of like ends the song. She like leaves before her hair is done. It's still wet. And I do like that after this, her hair is kind of like not messed up, but it's like not done for the rest of the movie. And I just thought that was an interesting little note. So then
we see Vanessa is going to take her lunch break, and we see she wants to like be like a fashion designer downtown, and she's been like putting in like a bid for an apartment, and we get into the song "It Won't Be Long Now."
Yes, I love this song.
And I gotta say, even this is like still like a slower type song. Every piece of music in this is music you just like have to dance to.
Absolutely, like all of it has.
Tempo.
Yeah, all of it has some like Latin dance beat behind it, and it's just it keeps the energy very high, which I think is really good and necessary for this first half of the movie, because I think without that detail it would really start to drag, because this entire first half of the movie is effectively, or first like quarter or third, let's say, of the movie is effectively just a series of solos where we're introduced, and a couple of ensemble numbers, but a series of solos where we're introduced to all of our like main characters. And I think without like the energy and sort of electricity that's in the set and the music, I think it would very quickly start to drag otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this song, I do really like it. It definitely characterizes Vanessa really well, and that's like someone who is very independent, does her own thing, like knows guys are into her, wants it when she wants it, and the rest of the time she's like, get the fuck out of my face. I don't want no scrub. And yeah, like during this we're kind of learning, like she lives in this tiny little apartment. She literally collects fabric scraps from a designer's dumpster. She's scrappy. We love it. And this is also the part where I kind of noticed, like, this film uses a lot of walking scenes during musical numbers, which I think is good to maintain momentum when you have relatively simplistic, like there's not a lot of narrative stuff going on and there's not a lot of choreography, but I do think it also starts to get repetitive after a while.
Bustle. She's a busy woman on the go. Yes,
but they're all always walking so fast while singing, and it's like, hey guys, sit down, it's okay. But so she goes to her like appointment sort of like meeting with a realtor, and finds out that she's not going to get it because of the credit check. But they tell her that if she can get a co-signer by 5 that same day, wild.
Credit scores weren't a thing until the 80s.
Credit scores are stupid.
Crazy.
And they literally started by like, there was like a dude that was just tracking everybody's credit. And was just like, yeah, this is how I decide whether I'm going to lend someone money. And then he started, like, loaning that information out to, like, bankers and creditors. And then they were like, oh, this is awesome. We love that you're keeping tabs on literally anyone who's ever borrowed money. We're going to make this an official system and hold everyone to it.
Everything.
Yes. Terrible. So then we're back at the bodega, where she heads after she, gets the disappointing news about the apartment. And Sunny basically asks her on a date for Uznavi, which I think is funny and interesting and very in character. I think it's cute that Vanessa, Uznavi has a stain on his shirt, so Vanessa, like, gets it out with a Tide pen, and then later in the movie he gives it to him, and later in the movie he uses
how she does it, she just takes care of it, and she's like, yeah, you can keep that, and walks off, and I'm like, you are so cool, like,
she's
Michelle
so cool.
Pfeiffer, Grease 2 level cool.
Literally.
And I don't think I have a higher compliment.
Fair enough. And so they basically agree that they're going to meet up at the club in a couple of days for to just go on a little date, do some dancing, get some drinks, and have fun together. We have a little bit of a break for Hispanic Heritage Month, where he is schooling the kids on famous like artists and historical figures that are of Latin descent. Love it. And then we kind of come back to the story, and Sunny is answering the phone as they are heading to the pool. It's a super hot day, so they're shutting down for the day. And they find out that the day before, they sold someone a lotto ticket that has just hit and is worth $96,000. So we get into the song, $96,000. What are your thoughts on this song?
I think it's fun as a narrative kind of song.
Agreed.
Where we just like hear about everyone's kind of dream. Everyone's dream.
This is another song that does its job.
Yeah, it does the job. And I think that what the standout for this song are the visuals.
The visuals, definitely. Yeah. This number is awesome. The visuals are fantastic. It's kind of giving Fabulous from High School Musical 2 with just the pool choreography,
crazy that
scale
is
of
reference.
It. The scale of it is much higher, but they are doing many of the same things. And the quality. Fair. But there's a particular shot where the camera goes underwater and then comes back up, and they're all dancing and it's so freaking cool.
Yeah, I really like the synchronized swimming aspects of it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like an Old Navy commercial.
Yes, it did have that vibe, for sure. Why is Sunny the hardest rapper in this entire cast?
He has passion.
He has an actually really good rap break in this, and I was really feeling it. I was actually a big fan of it. And I do really like the way the song is structured in general, where it kind of starts with everyone's big dreams, the crazy things that they would spend this money on. But then as the song progresses, you see people kind of settling back down to reality and really coming to terms with how would $96,000 actually change my life, the types of things I could do with that. And so we get to the end.
Because Usnavi said he'd use it to stay out of financial ruin.
For real. So then they reveal the numbers at the end of the song, and no one there won. And the kids ask about it, and Usnavi says that the ticket was apparently never turned in, which is a loss, but also happens a lot.
Also, fun fact, in this song, in the stage version, there's a reference to Donald Trump, but they changed it to the movie to Tiger Woods. That's
hilarious.
Do you know, is it on average, I think it's around 0.7, 0.74 is the on average the amount of felonies presidents have had in the United States. Isn't that fun? That's fun. News for us.
Oh my gosh! I just find it a little wild that felons can't vote, but apparently they can run to be president. Find that a bit curious. Find that very interesting.
You want to get another drink?
Hell yeah!
Cool.
It's about time.
Bird.
Campbell, do you remember being back in 3rd grade and having music class and learning to play the recorder and hot cross buns?
Fun fact. So I know a lot of wind instruments. I physically was not able to play the recorder. My teacher told me just to stand there at the concert. But yeah, I'm familiar with the concept.
That's so sad.
It's okay. I can play the bassoon. I've gotten over it. I don't feel bad about it.
Okay, well, we'll move on.
Put a pin in that.
Put a pin in that. Boop. So, unfortunately enough, there are students all across the country that have never before had a general music education class and don't have the ability or the opportunity to access music education and get the chance to learn tons of different wind instruments or even just the recorder. And that's why we are partnering with Education Through Music, which is an organization that partners with low-income schools in New York City to provide students better access to music education.
Also, 53% of New York City schools do not have a music teacher on faculty full-time. So Education Through Music also provides weekly music education by putting qualified music teachers into these schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons this is so important is because motivation for learning means motivation for staying in school. And a lot of the students that are able to be involved in these music programs report that they have attended school when they otherwise would have skipped, or like stayed in school when they otherwise like wouldn't have wanted to stay, specifically because they were looking forward to music class, or they were looking forward to ensemble, and getting to learn specifically about music.
And you can support and learn more at etmonline.org/donate. That's etmonline.org/donate. Help out. Do you have an instrument that you've neglected and now it hates you? Do you have too much money and think, hey, this can go to a good place? Neither applies to me, but I want to talk to you about the Daddario Foundation. They believe in the transformative power of music and that mentoring and building communities through music can positively affect social change. 100% of every dollar raised goes directly to support efforts to get kids involved in community music programs, acquire and maintain instruments, provide college scholarships, and support new innovation in music education. You can learn more and donate at www.daddariofoundation.org/about/donate. That's www.daddariofoundation.org/about/donate.
Hey there, listeners. Pop quiz. Who was your favorite teacher in school? Did it happen to be someone who inspired a movie? Did that movie later change the world? Because that's exactly what happened with Mr. Holland's opus, the story of the profound effect a dedicated music teacher had on generations of students. The composer for the film, Michael Kamen, later started the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation in 1996 as his commitment to the future of music education. Today, the foundation works with schools nationwide to audit their music education programs, supply quality instruments, train teachers on basic instrument repair, and even offer customized consulting to make sure the school's program fits their students' needs. The impact of this foundation now ensures that hundreds of thousands of kids across the country are granted access to learn and play music in school, keeping music education alive and well. If you're interested in supporting their mission, you can donate online, over the phone, or even while you shop Amazon or eBay. Visit mhopus.org/donate to learn more. Cheers. Clink. Okay, so getting back into it. So Abuela takes her hand-embroidered napkins, beautiful pieces of work, to the new launder, Pike, who has moved in next to Rosario's car service, who Rosario had sold half of his space to pay for Nina's first year of college. She takes her napkins over to them to see, like, you know, how much would it cost to just, like, get these cleaned. It would be $120. And I'm just like, bro, this is gentrification at work. Are you fucking kidding me? They had said earlier in the movie there was $9 to get a shirt cleaned there. Crazy.
I think for my PhD defense, I'm a doctor, I like got my shirt and like a jacket and tie and pants and different options for things dry cleaned. And I think total it cost me like $20.
Yeah.
But this is, I don't know, this was upsetting to see. Especially because she was like, I'm going to have these, because they're like really important to her. I'm going to get these like together for a very important event with my family. And just being like, never mind. I'm just like, ugh, I hate people.
Fair. So we hear the song Piragua, sung by Lin-Manuel Miranda, which inspiration for the drink. Cheers again.
Cheers.
Clinky, clinky.
We also see his nemesis, Mr. Softy.
Yes, oh my god.
The ice cream man, who is played by Chris Jackson, which is funny. He was George Washington in Hamilton, Bull, and Just Like That, a million things. But I don't know. I appreciate with Lin-Manuel Miranda that he always, you know, has like room and space and opportunities for the people he works with.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we needed this song, Lynn. I don't think it needed to be here.
I also agree.
I think, like, from a story building perspective, right? The story of the Piragua man being put out of business by Mr. Softy, the ice cream truck, is, yeah, like, it's good from a, like, motif building, you know, it adds to the overall theme of, like, the issues that the Latin American community are facing and, like, the gentrification that's going on in the area. But we already have that with, like, the Pike's Launders, like, business, and just, like, all of the other dialogue and stuff that's happening in the movie. I really don't think, while I appreciate it, I don't think it's needed for the story. This movie is long enough.
Because this character's in every version. Minus, like, the first reading in 2005. But starting at the, like, Connecticut tryout, also in 2005, that's when.
Yeah. No, I totally understand the importance of this character, but this is a very long movie. I truly think this movie could have been an hour and 45 minutes. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I think that shows in the last, like, 30 minutes of the film.
Okay, it does show in, like, the last 30 minutes, but I will say Matilda felt longer.
That's fair.
And I liked it. But it was, like, once we got to, like, a point in this movie, I was like, okay, it can be over. But then it kept on going for...
too long.
20,000 more songs?
Correct. And I'm going to talk about the exact point. I'm going to talk about the exact point when we get to it. So then after the Piragua, then we see the scene with Abuela at the Launders, and then we go and we see that Nina and Benny are hanging out. So they're just kind of talking. We get into the song When You're Home, which is, like, Nina kind of starts off talking about how, you know, the world used to kind of seem really small to her, and basically just feel like this community, and how now that she has seen so much more of the world and been kind of, you know, taken the knocks that she took at Stanford, how she feels like she's lost her way and she doesn't quite know where to go from here. And so this song is basically, like, Benny propping her up and saying, like, okay, well, regardless, you know, you're always welcome here. When you're home, you know, we're still here for you. You're still part of something, and hopefully, like, we can be the ones to help you find your way. He also uses this song as an opportunity to hit on her, which I think is not the most opportune time.
Benny and Sonny also, in the Bodega, in the Heights, like, opening song, were telling Usnavi to, like, ask Vanessa out. They're like, here's your chance, while she's fully on the phone.
Yes.
And I was like, this is not your time. Don't be rude. That's what are you talking about?
Correct. Yeah. No, it's wild.
Have some tact.
But besides that, I do generally like the song.
Oh, it's
pretty
good
song. Yeah, it's a good song. So then after we finish with the song, Benny brings Kevin a coffee, goes into his office, and he sees that Kevin is in a meeting with Pike. And that's he's a little uncomfortable with that. He heads out. We're gonna reconvene on that issue later on. And then we see that Usnavi goes to see his tío, Sonny's dad, who talks about, talk about basically taking Sonny back with him to the Dominican Republic when he goes, to, like, build up his dad's shop again. And this scene is really sad. So this is basically during the scene, his uncle tells him, like, hey, he says without saying that Sonny is an undocumented immigrant.
Yeah.
And that because of that, he's not going to be able to, like, he can't get an ID for him. Like, he's not going to be able to, like, board a plane, all that stuff, to be able to go to the Dominican Republic with him. And so Usnavi then goes to see Alejandro and say, like, hey, is there any changing this path? Like, is the deposit already paid? Like, and Alejandro's, yeah, like, everything's booked. Like, you're good to go. Like, it's yours. Like, like, do you have cold feet? What's going on? And he's just like, oh, damn. Well, I'll make it work. You know, I'll figure it out, type of thing. And so then finally we get to, there's been a countdown going on so far.
I really like how they do that. To, like, the blackout and, like, the temperature.
Yes, I did like it, and I think it adds to the sort of, like, increase in tension and pressure that you feel throughout the story. I also just really like it when shows find a way to tell you clearly and explicitly how much time is passing, because it helps my little brain understand the story a lot of the time. So the characters all come over to Abuela's apartment for like a big dinner. And this is kind of the scene where I was saying like, just you really get a sense of like the sense of community and just like love and excitement that is just so palpable amongst the entire cast. So Vanessa shows up, and she and Usnavi have like the most awkward but somehow still cute flirting. It works somehow. And then Nina gets some sauce on Kuka's sleeve, and Usnavi uses the same Tide pen that Vanessa gave him earlier to clean it off.
How good do you think that apartment smells?
So good. Oh, it smells like, because you saw the flan, you saw all that food that was laid out. It smells amazing. They got the spices, they got the caramel, all of it. The coleche, all of it. It's going. It's going. It's going.
It looks so good.
It looks so fucking good. I want to be there. So then Benny comes in, and he immediately chooses violence.
Timing. Timing is everything.
Bro. So
he
yeah,
never
they
has it
for
being a dispatcher. Like,
for real.
It's crazy to me. He comes in to yell at a man, his boss,
yes,
and most likely future in-law, what to do with his business.
Correct.
After giving him more opportunities.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's right for Kevin to put his dream onto his daughter. That's a running theme in this. Like, who's actually... You can't live your dream through me. It's like when people say, like, the legacy that they will have will be their children. I think that's stupid and that's selfish. Your legacy is you. They can have their own legacy. You accomplish. They're their own person. Yeah. Don't have kids to have your name continue on. That's stupid, and I hope they change it when they're older.
And I do think it is interesting the way the story explores the nuance of the situation between Kevin and Nina, so we'll get into it. So Benny comes in and immediately asks Kevin about the meeting with Pike, and she's like, hey, what's going on there? So he says, like, he's sold Rosario's, like, it is official now, he has fully sold it, and he's going to use the money for Nina's education. And so...
Do you know what I love about that? Some of the reactions? I think it's Kuka who said, good for you, get your money. Yes, that's how you be supportive.
Yes, love her. And so they get into a bit of a fight, and Nina opens up about how, like, hey, part of the reason she's not going back is because she was searched on her first day there when she was, like, moving in. Her roommate had lost her pearl necklace, and they immediately suspected her, which is something that I've heard from Hispanic people before, of, like, especially because they're often, like, stereotyped as being cleaners, or, like, often put into positions where they have to work as, like, maids or cleaners or some sort of, like, worker in the service industry to be able to survive and make money to support their families. And being in such a being in that sort of predicament where you're in someone's home regularly, especially people that are of a much different class level than you, just the sheer level of, like, classism and xenophobia is just a rife. It just creates an environment, like, rife for exploitation and also just, like, racism and shitty behavior. And so Nina, like, opens up about that experience and basically gets to a fight with Kevin where she says, like, I'm not going back and I don't want your money. And they end up storming out, basically, like, her, Benny, and it's not, I don't know if we see it, but Vanessa and Usnavi, like, also end up leaving because they all go to the club together.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I guess dinner's over, let's go clubbing.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna go dancing now. So they all go to the club. So they go off to the club, and we get into the song, The Club.
Okay. Immediately mad at everyone involved.
Yes.
First, the arguments later on between Vanessa and Usnavi, originally that was between Benny and Nina in the stage version, but they wanted like more of an emphasis on, like, their relationships in the film. How does Usnavi get mad about not having a lot of time with Vanessa? Yep. And someone's like, oh, can I dance with you? And she's like, no, thank you. And I'm like, basically, I'm on a date. Yeah. And Usnavi's like, no, go ahead. I'm just going to drink, then get mad about it, and then hit on someone else and dance with her.
Literally, like, I almost forgot the fact that, I mean, he didn't ask her on a date. Technically, Sunny asked her on a date, but still, I almost forgot the fact that, like, functionally, you asked this girl on a date, brought her to this location, and then immediately, at the first opportunity to, like, dance with her, you're just like, oh no, you can go dance with this random other guy. Don't worry about me. I'm just gonna chill here.
See more of what we've seen, like, musically beforehand, where Usnavi is, like, rapping, he's, like, very fast, like, going with the tempo and the beat. Yeah. Vanessa, she sees the world from her own perspective. She just tells him to relax, and, like, literally, she is slowing the song down.
Yeah.
But also, this is her world. Everyone knows who she is. She's the most popular person here.
Yeah. She's killing it on the dance floor.
Vanessa, let me get the next one. That line is just at the different, like, melodies and, like, beats and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This was a really, really fun song.
This is such a fun song.
Buying a drink for someone else because you told your date to go dance with someone.
With someone else, crazy. And now we're mad that she's dancing with someone else. To me. It's crazy. So he's, like, awkwardly and cringily hitting on this other lady who thankfully doesn't speak Spanish. And then she also doesn't speak English, yes. Who thankfully doesn't speak English, and she also schools him on the dance floor, because it's also established that he's not a very good dancer, but it's
he does great, though. That's so
he does funny.
It's like in Cabaret, that Sally Bowles is, like, not supposed to be, like, a very, like, good, accomplished, like, performer. But then you have Liza Minnelli playing her. Just like, how much can you believe this?
Yeah. Or it's like when you have a character who's like, oh, I'm ugly, but they're played by Margot Robbie. Like, fuck off.
It's like those people in school who's like, oh, I did so bad on that test. I, like, didn't have time to study, and they get 100, which I assume that is both you and I.
Agreed, yes. Yeah. I was going to say, so you? Okay.
So, yes. And you.
But yeah, I really love this number. I think it's just great storytelling through music and dance. They finally start, like, actually kind of are together at the end, like, dance a little bit together, and then again he leaves her to go get shots. And when he's over at the bar, you can see she's already like, hey, why are you leaving me, like, blah blah blah. And then that's when the blackout hits, and so there's a lot of panic. Like, it gets, like, pitch fucking black in here. Like, every single light goes out, and we hear, like, screaming, everyone's freaking out, and we get into the song Blackout. And I also really like this number. There's, like, they do this, like, layering of different melodies as everyone is talking, running around, figuring out where to go. And we're cutting to different people. So we see, like, the trio, Daniela, Kuka and Carla, like, walking down the street, and, like, their lines are, like, really fun, and, like, building into, like, that layering, and, like, the panic and everything that's going on. And then things kind of start settling. People start, like, Sunny and some other people start shooting off fireworks, which is really cool. And then it kind of turns into a little bit of a party with, like, sparklers, and everyone's having fun. I will say some of the lyrics are a bit on the nose and kind of cringy.
Are you talking about shaking your ass to half of the heights? Specifically?
I'm specifically talking about the "We Are Powerless" line, but also that one, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So everyone's freaking out. Usnavi finds, or Benny we see is with Nina. He heads off to Rosario's to check on something.
So he can, like, see if they have power, so he can help direct people.
That's the reason that he's
so he is able to transfer the calls to the dispatchers to his cell phone, so he can help people in crises. Not so he can go do something, Raven. It's like,
okay, that's still something.
Not in your dismissive way.
Anyway, so Usnavi finds Vanessa. They have another fight, and because she's rightfully upset because he's been abandoning her basically the whole night. And yes, he says that line. He says that line about, you've been shaking your ass with half of the heights, and it's like, you told me to go dance with this man. Anyway.
You told me to throw that ass in the circle.
So she heads off on her own, and then everyone else heads to Abuela's.
Because they were raised right. Because when the blackout happened, I was like, what about Abuela?
Literally, go check on her.
And you see that the best characters in this film, the muses, that's the first place they go to play bingo with Abuela. Also probably because there's a lot of good food there.
Hell yeah, there's so much good food. The best way to do it. And so yeah, we get to Abuela's, and we get into the song. She lays down, kind of goes to sleep, and we get into the song.
As soon as she laid down, I was like, you
saw it coming.
Fucking not. Yeah.
We get into the song Paciencia y Fe, which means patience and faith. And
best song of the movie.
I have no notes for this because I was literally mesmerized the entire time. Her voice, the music, the visuals,
presence.
like the dancers, it was just everything about this musical number is truly fantastic. I actually literally have no notes.
I do. You really see about like her upbringing and like what it was back, like a home for her, like what she had to go through, like in America with her mom, and she talks kind of like there's this like running thing of birds for her when she was a child in Cuba. Like feeding the birds and just always kind of like feeding and taking care of, and like her community here are her birds in that respect. But I think something that she sings about is just so like such a central tenet of like this movie. What do you do when your dreams come true? And she's talking about the inherited dream of her mother. She was like, hey, I survived. I did it. I did your dream. And then that kind of like reflection of someone at the end of their life.
Yeah.
Who has finished the dream of someone else. And still is thinking like, what now? What do I do? Where do I go from here? Kind of thing. Not in a place of like regret or anything.
But in a place of almost like acceptance and like contentment.
I think it's more of a reflection of, I think it was more like her understanding, okay, at the end of this dream, this is where I'm at, understanding like how it came to be that way, and then she's like looking which direction to go, and then she like then makes her choice. Yeah. To rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Of whether to basically pass on or to stay. And she goes upstairs
sad. I hated it.
And passes away in her sleep peacefully. The neighborhood, like everyone freaks out, of course. Usnavi is the one that finds her. The neighborhood ends up holding like a candlelight vigil, which I always think is really sweet. And we get into the song Alabanza, which means praise. Okay, so my opening notes for this song are, they can't all be winners. Because the opening rap bit here, I really did not like.
Opposite.
I pray she went out.
That's the part I liked about it.
I pray she went out in peace with pieces of breadcrumbs in her hand. Put the pen down, Lynn. Put it down. We're done. We're done for today.
For the birds.
Okay. But then, I do think, though, despite my very much not liking any of the lyrics in this opening part of the song, I do think that Anthony Ramos still, like, carries the emotional core of the scene very well and, like, delivers it very well. And then I think once we get into, like, the choral portion of the song where, like, everyone in the neighborhood is, like, singing Alabanza, Adonia Claudia, Senor, I really like that portion, and I think it's beautiful, and like it's a very simplistic melody, simplistic lyrics, but the sentiment is all there, and the emotion is all there.
Something I think could have been really powerful, and I know it's not necessarily how like science works, but a lot of times that Abuela was saying that she like misses the stars, and like she can't even see Cassiopeia because like light pollution and things like that. If during the blackout there was some reference to stars, I think would have made it perfect. And I think it was a really big missed opportunity. Because I wrote in my note, I said, I swear if you can see stars, I'm going to assault Lin-Manuel Miranda, is what I wrote in my notes. Because that was going to push me over the edge.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to come to that.
That's fair. Yeah, no,
So
I agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something that they should have incorporated or should have touched on there.
Yeah. And then we see it's 3 days since the blackout, 106 degrees, and I just like how everything is just so quiet and silence.
Yeah, because everyone's just sweltering. So Usnavi and Vanessa are talking, and so it's established that, yes, he's going to be, like, leaving soon, and they're trying to figure out, like, where does that leave us, you know, because we kind of have something here, but also, like, can't really be in a relationship from separate countries. Not entirely true, though. I know people that have done it. And so then we see Kevin and Benny are talking, and we learn from Kevin that his father pulled him out of high school to work on the farm when he was growing up. And I think this, I kind of wish that this had been revealed earlier. I can understand why it's here, but I do think that this kind of adds that nuance to the conflict between him and Nina of, like, yes, he is pushing his dream onto her, and that's technically wrong. Like, he needs to understand, like, she is her own person, has her own path, but also I think, like, this background and experience is very common for a lot of people of Nina's generation of, like, understanding that my parent has a very particular dream for me that I don't necessarily share, but is born of the experiences that they had and them effectively wanting a future for me that they know they can never have. And it creates a sort of conflict in yourself because you're just like, well, I don't want that future. I don't necessarily want to do this thing, but I know what it means to them and they matter to me. So then it becomes this sort of like triangle of like, again, like whose dream am I really following here?
Yeah. And if only, you know, people like communicated.
Yeah. Feelings. It would be great. It would be, maybe there's some sort of song or like dance number, perhaps.
Perhaps.
And so then we see Nina and Sunny are at the DACA repeal protest, and the politician there is talking about her niece, who presumably is an undocumented immigrant, and how she was not able to go to college because of her undocumented status, and how basically the repeal of the DACA legislation will affect people like her niece and people like her niece. And so through this, like, Sunny finds out that he won't be able to go to college. And so this really upsets him. We have a sort of aside with him and Nina where she comforts him. And then Nina goes back to her father and basically decides, like, I am going to go back to Stanford and I'm going to use my education and this opportunity to basically bring it back home and, like, come back to my community and help people like Sunny, help undocumented people, and, like, give them, like, help them get all the opportunities and all the paths that, like, they otherwise would not have available to them.
Yeah, and this is when her dad is like, oh, wow, like, in this moment, like, this is the moment you are doing better than me, and it's not going to college or anything like that. It's because you're seeing a future that I wasn't able to.
Couldn't see. Yeah.
I couldn't see.
Yeah. I like that moment.
I do too, a lot.
And then Usnavi finds Vanessa's rental application and takes it to Daniela and asks her to co-sign for her, since he's going to be out of the country and won't be able to do it. And so presumably with Daniela co-signing, she will be able to get her her dream apartment and move downtown to pursue fashion design. And so then we see Daniela is packing up and ready to leave, and she gets frustrated.
She's like, where's my goodbye?
Where are my people? You know, she turns around, there's no one out on the street. And so then they go, like, into, like, the sort of courtyard of the Heights, or, like, one of the high-rises. And she's just like, what is going on? Since when have Latin people been afraid of the heat? And we get into Carnaval del Barrio. I
think after this song, the movie should have
ended.
It should have just ended. We could have had a quick, just speaking scenes for, like, the last, like, two couples. And then we could have transitioned to, like, the last 5 minutes where we see what happened.
Because here's my problem with this song. this like is a finale song. It's either an Act 2 opener or it's a finale. Like that's just the what this song feels like.
You didn't like that it was like an Act 2 3/4 opener?
Like it's so weird the way it's placed, and like up until this point in the movie I didn't necessarily have issues with the pacing. Like I feel like the club, the blackout, and Paciencia y Fe like were good like set of story beats with like, okay, there's a lot of music, but you're keeping the plot going. But then at this point I'm just like, why are there still 30 minutes of the movie left?
No,
what?
It was like almost, it was like 30 or 40. It was like,
yeah, it was like 35. Crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, there's so much movie left.
Yeah, but this is song, where I lost stamina.
Yeah. This song is a fun time. I'll give it that. Like it's very dynamic. You see, Danielle is basically like picking everybody back up and saying like, hey, we're still gonna have fun. We're still gonna dance. We're still gonna like enjoy life, regardless of like the power. And like we are not powerless. And we see that Vanessa and Sunny are kind of like pushing back, and they're the ones like singing the refrain of like, we are powerless, and everyone else is kind of like trying to pep them up and say like, hey, no, like we do have control over our own destinies, over our fates, and like we can still live our little dreams even if the world is trying to stop us, type of thing. Perfect wrap up of the themes, the motifs, you know.
It even sets up like the final moments when they're like
truly
when talking to Vanessa, who's like, why is everyone so happy? And they're telling us like, do not say Usnavi is a friend. You get all of your coffee for free. Like,
literally.
Like, we're leaving to like 10 minutes away still, but you're going to hear this whether you like it or not.
Literally.
Because they are the muses to this movie.
They're the muses. And so then at the end of the song, the power comes back on through the power of dance, mayhaps. And then we do another kind of time jump. So they end up leaving. We do another time jump, and we see that it has been a month now since the blackout. Benny is helping Nina like finish packing up and get ready to leave for school. And we get into the song When the Sun Goes Down. Very cute song, very cute scene, but feels totally unnecessary to the story. I feel like this could have been a 15-second dialogue interaction, to be completely honest. I do really
weird anti-gravity kind of dancing going on.
It's very like the Tonight scene in like West Side Story, kind of. Yeah.
And
just because on the
kind
fire
of like
escape.
the museum scene in La La Land. But
yes.
When like at the very end, when they're like sliding down a brick wall, I was like, that looks painful. Ouch. That took me back out of it.
That is a very high friction coefficient and does not feel at all comfortable. Yeah, I do really like the sound of this track, though. I definitely like it on the soundtrack. And there's a little reprise of the Breathe melody at the end, which I thought was really nice and like worked narratively. So then we go to Usnavi, who is also packing up to leave, and he finds the winning lotto ticket from 96,000 in Abuela's box, which at this point I started wondering, how long does one have to claim a lottery ticket? Because I couldn't remember if it was 30 days or 3 months, but 3 months feels like a really long time.
You never know.
Yeah, I mean, and it probably changes by state. Yeah, I could look it up, but I don't care that much.
Great. Got it.
And
but
so
then Vanessa's there, and we get into, I think, the worst song of the movie. This is the "Can You Light My Candle" of
this is
In the Heights. It is like, just talk, like just
the sing talking does not work.
Just talk.
It, especially on like Anthony's lines, it doesn't work. Pick one. I do like how they managed to sort of steadily build the tension in the song until it reaches a sort of climax. I do like that, but
I didn't
sing
get the
talking
tension because I think I wanted it to be over.
Fair enough.
I was really enjoying this too.
Fair enough, yeah. So then she kisses him at the end of the song, she also tells him that she's at designer's block, basically, since she moved to downtown, how she hasn't been able to sew anything, kisses him at the end of the song, and then leaves. And now here's the thing. They had opened a bottle of champagne, the name of the song, but hadn't started drinking, and she left relatively shortly after she got there. Right before she got there, he had called the lottery office and checked, like, how long do I have to pick this to cash this in? And we, the audience, didn't hear the answer, but he seemed happy with the answer. So I would presume that he still had time to cash it in. But then, after Vanessa leaves, we cut to Alejandro's office that evening, and he has not turned in the ticket yet.
No, I thought he was relieved that it could be cashed in, so maybe then he can use it as collateral.
Yes, the problem, though, is I think I think you, like, I don't think a random person can cash it in. Like, I think either Abuela, or I guess because she wrote his name on it, like, I think either he or Abuela would have to cash it in. I don't know if he can give, I don't know if he can give
a receipt for it.
Yeah, like, you would have to have some sort of proof, like, I don't know.
But he was also the one that sold it, so I think he could come up with the proof needed.
That's fair. But, so with Alejandro, he's basically trying to figure out, like, what would it take to be able to get Sonny a green card and for him to, like, be able to become, like, a documented immigrant, maybe eventually a citizen, but just enough that he could, like, go to college, like, be documented, like, all of that stuff. And, you know, Alejandro tells him, like, it's possible, but it's going to be a very long fight. There's a lot of hoops we're going to have to jump through, and it could be as long as, like, 5 years before we find out anything. That could be for an approval or a rejection. Yeah. But Sonny says that he wants to do it, that he wants to fight and be able to get his documented status. So they go on from there. And so then we cut back to Vanessa, who is walking somewhere that evening, and passes Pete, who is spray painting a mural, and gets some paint on her shoe. And when she goes to grab one of his drop rags to wipe it off, she's inspired by the design of, like, paint splattered on them, which sure could be cool from, like, an abstract artistic perspective, but, like, okay. And basically immediately gets inspiration to, like, sew a bunch of new shit. And so then we go to Usnavi's last morning, where, you know, we see that he has his suitcase all ready to go. Still has boxes, though, which seems slightly odd. But he hears Abuela's old bolero record playing, and when it hits the record scratch portion of the Por Siempre part, that kind of remixes.
That was a good transition.
I did like that. I didn't like the rest of the finale song, but I did like that. Yeah.
But so we see, like, Vanessa finds them and is like, hey, come take a look at this. And they, like, go inside the bodega, and she made... Yes. I assume they didn't sleep. Because she has made, like, remade the inside of the bodega more reflective of, like, family history, inspired by, like, the art is being inspired by the community there.
Yes.
And Usnavi decides to stay.
Yes. So he decides to stay, and we cut back to the kids, and we realize that we've been in the shop the whole time.
Yeah. We've never left the Shonies. It's...
yeah, my thoughts exactly.
Could have been on a beach.
I didn't like that. That felt corny to me, but it's fine. And then, and so then they're like, oh, Dad, can we go play in the water? Which at this point we understand to mean, like, the hydrant, like the fire hydrant sprinkler water, basically. And then so the first three kids all run outside. Then the last daughter, he says, ask your mother. And then we turn around and we see that it's Vanessa, because obviously it's Vanessa. Oh, I wasn't sure how many of all the children.
So I think it was just Iris.
Totally fair. And that also makes sense. But it just seemed like we didn't need that, because, like, we kind of also already knew that it just felt like a awkward and stilted way to establish the fact that they were married and this was their child. A fact that certainly by this point your audience can at least just assume, but I didn't like it. And then Fiend.
And then we get into Home
All Summer over the credits, which I did listen to this time.
Feature Mark Anthony, who was also like in the club scene. Mark Anthony, though, you know, the famous music artist.
Puerto Rican, yeah.
But did you see the scene after the credits?
No.
Wow. So Mr. Softy's truck broke down.
Oh, good for him.
And do you know who was prepared to raise their product by $1?
The Piragua guy?
Yes. And so he also hands one to Mr. Softy in the end. But he also says, I told you I run this town. And then we kind of end on that.
Love it.
I love it. You're like, I made the effort this time, but you didn't fully follow through.
I didn't. I just wrote down that, oh, this is the song that's over the credits, and I listened to it, which to me was good enough. So, getting into our discussion question, I want to get your thoughts on the way, like, social justice themes were integrated into the story. If it feels too on the nose, like too in your face, or if it feels like actually naturally integrated. And I'll let you go first.
I think because it's also interesting, like for the film version, they like had DACA be like a very major thing going on, like specifically as opposed to the stage version. And I think in general, hot take, I don't think I care how it's integrated. I think the fact that it is more important.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I think sometimes I was like, okay, this is a natural part of the story. There's like telling these people's lives and actual things that are happening to people in this country. But I feel like there were moments, I think you did say, it was kind of like more on the nose, but some of the lyrics were like, oh, I get it. Like, we are powerless. And I was like, no, just keep shouting it though. Because like,
yeah,
that's just how the world is. And if you like back away from it, like a lot of things like don't happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think like from that perspective, as long as they're portraying it accurately, I don't care how it's integrated.
That's a fair point.
If they're very like heavy-handed with it, but it's just kind of like just a lot of buzzwords, then I think that's dumb, and I think that does a disservice to like whatever movement you're talking about. But it wasn't that. It was nuanced. It would happen from a lot of different perspectives, and we see direct impacts of this from a lot of different like points of view and a lot of different areas where people are impacted by, say, like immigration status in this country.
Yeah. And
yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like to me, the only times it feels like heavy-handed is when it's or poorly integrated is when it feels like they're trying to either be really lofty and like, oh, look at us, we're handling topics of like racism, we're woke, or if it's like, hey, white people, this is what racism is. When it's one of those, that's when it feels like a little like, who are you really making this for type of thing. But they're making it to be so that they're the people being viewed as saying it. Yes. It's like the state of Oregon is how I feel about a lot of those things. Fair. But yeah, like performative. Yes, and I think in these stories, like really, like when you're making stories about any minority community, the types of like various like oppressions or marginalization or whatever that they face, like it is a part of their life. And so like all you have to do to integrate it is to just show how it affects their lives. And I think like having one of the major themes be gentrification was a really good way of that, because it really shows like not just how racism affects like individuals like Daniela, who has to like move her studio because of or move her salon because of cost, but it also shows the greater impact on the community as a whole beyond any individual person being harmed. And I think the small moments that they show of like Nina being searched and mistaken for the help, like an actual experience that a lot of people of like not only Hispanic descent but also like Black people and like other minorities can also relate to, and like has literally happened to them. And also like Vanessa's experience when she went to the realtor and basically not getting the apartment despite having all the money she needed to pay for it, not getting it because they didn't like her credit background. And those types of things, like, I think those small ways of just showing, like, this is an actual realistic way that someone probably watching this movie has personally experienced to show how these things affect these characters. And I think, like, yeah, I think I can definitely see some people saying that this is too over the top or on the nose, but I think, like, it's just because you don't like discussions of social justice issues in the first place.
Yeah, because I didn't really see it as virtue signaling.
Not at
here.
all.
I
saw it as, like,
here's some things that are happening.
This is a story about Hispanic people, and we're showing issues that the people in Hispanic communities face. Like,
yeah, and, like, some of the, like, lyricism was just,
could have been better,
was very sure. Like, apparent in certain things, but, like, I also think that's fine.
Yeah. Cool. That was interesting. Okay, so Composer's Corner. Yeah. Almost forgot.
Raven's Composer Corner. Do.
So the music and lyrics for this musical film were done by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Just going to do a quick thing on him. So he was born January 16th, 1980, which I don't think I said last time. He's currently 44.
Why? Yeah, you're like, I don't know what to say this time, but now I'm just saying everyone's ages. That's just
I like it,
so
though.
Weird to me, though.
I enjoy it. For me, it's actually helpful and kind of grounding to know, like, what era a person was. I don't know. I find it interesting, and it's biographical information. So, he is a songwriter, actor, singer, filmmaker, rapper, and librettist. So we did discuss him mostly on the Moana episode. So I'm mostly going to be talking about
Hamilton,
and Hamilton. Yeah. So many things.
Somewhat.
So going to be talking about some of the other people and the reception of the film. So he did write all of the music and lyrics for these songs, but he had some additional producers on the tracks, who are Alex Lacamore, who is a Cuban-American composer, arranger, conductor, musical director, copyist, and orchestrator, who has worked on Godspell, Legally Blonde, Wicked, Hamilton, Bring It On, Dear Evan Hansen, Tick, Tick, Boom, and Greatest Showman. We also have Bill Sherman, who is an American composer, producer, arranger. He has worked on Hamilton, Sesame Street, and also Questlove has a podcast called Questlove's Supreme Podcast that Bill Sherman produces, which I thought was really cool. And we have Greg Wells, who is a Canadian record producer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and audio engineer, who's worked with a variety of artists, including John Legend, Adele, Taylor Swift, Celine Dion, and Timbaland. And so getting into the reception of the film, surprisingly, it didn't, not super surprisingly, but it didn't do that well in box offices, which a lot of people attribute to it coming out in 2021 when, like, the pandemic was still, like, really kind of at its height. A lot of places were opening back up, but people were understandably very concerned and nervous about going out into public in crowded arenas, especially places like movie theaters. So it kind of flopped in the box office and really didn't break even, but it got super high scores from critics, again unsurprisingly, because it's such a good musical. And so it won a number of awards, including the National Hispanic Media Coalition Impact Award, as well as 3 Hollywood Critics Association Awards. So Campbell, what are we playing today?
You will be playing... did I tell you you're playing violin?
Nope.
Oh, you're playing violin. I'm playing clarinet, and we're going to be playing When the Sun Goes Down.
When the sun goes down. Okay, that's not how that song goes. Burp.
Bye.
Okay.
Cool.
And then...
You would just go for it to the end?
Let's go for it. That actually wasn't that bad. So yeah, let's go for it. Okay.
And, like, what's fun about talking when you're playing, like, just a direct, like, the same beats and melodies on an instrument, you don't have to play the notes right.
That's so true.
You don't have to do those dotted 16th and dotted triplet notes the same.
You just play the words.
You just play the words.
Love
Live
it.
your truth. Count us off.
Okay. I'm just going to count off in 4-4 because I don't feel like counting in 6-4.
Okay.
Right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I really like that song. I don't think it needs to be in the movie, but I definitely want it to stay on the soundtrack.
Yeah, I get that. And it's also interesting because, like, 5 songs were cut.
Yeah. And it's still almost 2.5 hours. Crazy.
Yeah. But, like, kind of with that, how would you rate the musical overall?
I think I would rate this... I'm between a 7.5 and an 8. I might just go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. It is really, really good. I truly think its biggest sin is that it's just a little too long. And the songs that I think could be cut aren't bad. They just don't need to be there, I think.
I think some aren't good.
Also fair. Yes, I think I'm gonna go with an 8.
I'll give it a 7. I think there was, just up to that, like, one song, which should have been the finale. I was along for the ride.
For sure, yeah.
And then the added 30 to 40 minutes just really
starts
took me
dragging.
out of it.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you there. Someone needs to take a bit of red pen to some of Lin-Manuel Miranda's musicals.
Yeah. We have now reached the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, y'all.
Yeah, we very much enjoyed having you here with us today. And Campbell, if they wanted to join us for any future episodes, or they wanted to, like, share the love and spread us to any of their friends, where would they find us?
Good luck.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, just try, nerds. But you can find us wherever podcasts are found. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Pocket Cast. Just wherever podcasts are found, we are on there. We're also, our new episodes are coming out on YouTube as well. They're still not video podcasts because I don't want to be seen.
Fair.
But I did finally re-upload our movie musical Power Hour on YouTube. That, like, on our we have links to it in our episode 50 Happy Hour special. But also, if you go to our Instagram at Boozicals, that's BOZICALS, in the highlights, there's also, in our link tree, there's also a link to that Power Hour. I did have to remove one of the songs because of copyright things, but I think still, like, the majority of the stuff is good to go, and you can see it unless you're in, like, a couple of countries. But when you find us, please like us, rate us, follow. Absolutely. Rate us favorably if you like what you hear. And if you don't, let us know why. You can email us at boozicals@gmail.com. That's BOOZICALS. Struggled that time. Or DM us on our Instagram at boozicals. And yeah, let us know what you'd rather see, what we could do better. If there's a bunch of things we got wrong, because we have been drinking. And that's probably a lot of stuff. But please rate us well, spread the love. Share us with your friends, families, coworkers, strangers, acquaintances. Because, we're just trying to have a good time with friends. Talk about music, important things.
Play some instruments.
Come up with... I think we've been killing it with the cocktail recipes. So if you're, like, making any of these drinks, please, we would love to know. Just reach out to us in all those ways that we just said. If you pay attention, please, come on. It's not that hard. But, like, let us know if you're making these drinks, because we do put a lot of work into it, and we want to kind of spread what we got going to more places so we can raise more money for different music education organizations that we really care about.
Hell yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah, okay, that's it. Bye.
I don't know why I said it like that.